Welcome back to the channel. In today's session, we're going to get into what I call the meat and the potatoes. I mean, really, what are you here for? You're here to learn how to use PlanSwift for taking off whatever type of work you're doing, whatever kind of discipline you're in. We've been kind of going around the periphery here of starting jobs, scaling jobs, navigating the panes, how to set up things, how to look at things, how they act. Now let's get into real takeoff. All right, in our part one of our Takeoff mini-series that we're doing inside of PlanSwift's Basics, we're going to start off with the first icon under our Takeoff group, which is Area. You'll probably use Area as much or more than any other tool in PlanSwift, and there's a lot of options and parameters to go over, so we're going to get right into it. First, if you're following along in your own PlanSwift, you'll want to have a drawing loaded up, something that you can take off an area, similar to what I'm starting with here. And we're just going to start off with a simple box area or rectangle. Now, if your drawing is not scaled, you'll need it scaled. And of course, what do we always talk about? Checking the scale. Now, this drawing, it says we've got set up as 1 inch equals 20 feet. Now, that's a pretty large scale. Normally, in the scales that you're going to be working in, typically the architectural scales, you're going to be in a 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, 16th, so forth. This is kind of large, but it works good for our tutorial today. So first thing I'm going to do is go in and check the scale. I've got a dimension here, which is good enough for this session. I'm going to go to my dimension tool, and I'm going to zoom in, click once, hit the left arrow, 20.6. And we went over this in a previous tutorial, so if you don't understand how to dimension something, go back and look at that and then come back to this one. Hit enter. And it's perfect. Now, so we're going to go up and click on Area, not the down arrow, Area itself. You're going to bring up a dialog box, and it's going to ask you to type in a name. And we're just going to, for this, we're going to type in slab demo. And we can pick the color. And remember, you can always change the color later. And the fill type's going to be solid, and the folder we just leave as default. I never use that option for putting it in other folders. You can, but in this form, that's pretty much all we need to do to start an area. Click OK. Now, it doesn't matter where you start. And in another tutorial, we talked about using the mouse for zooming in and out and going in the pan mode. And you'll see me do that quite a lot. So first thing I want to do is zoom. As I'm zooming, I'm taking my right mouse button, holding it down, and it goes into pan mode, and I can maneuver. And I can tell you after a while, you'll get really used to using the mouse scroll wheel and the right mouse button to go in pan and scroll, and it'll be almost instantaneous. I'm going to go to a corner. In this case, this is the corner it's starting, even though it looks like it's a little bit off center there. We're going to start there. We're just going to go, remember what we said in previous videos, always go for the middle of the line. That actually is where it actually is mathematically. So click there, and we're just going to go over. There's no snapping really going on here because there's nothing already there, so there's nothing to snap to, so we really have to be a little bit precise. As you're going over, it's going to stay in ortho mode, which is trying to decide where the line is. This box is a little bit off, and because it's a little bit off, I'm going to get it out of ortho mode by holding down the Shift key. And just so you know, holding down the Shift key keeps it from snapping in at a certain angle. So I'm going to get right in the middle there in that corner, click again, because you're clicking in each corner for an area, or every time the angle changes, you're clicking with your left mouse button. And I'm zooming out, zooming back in, and I'm going to get the rest of this. There again, this is not rocket science. I'm going to get that corner. Where is that corner at? Going at that corner is right there. And I'm going to either hit escape or go up here and click off the digitize record. and I'm done. I've got a box. 41,967.46 square feet. Holy cow, that's big. With it shows me the perimeter and shows me how many corners I've snapped in or clicked in. 4 corners. Now, that's a basic box. We're done there. We've done an area. Now, we've only basically measured an area. We haven't priced it out. We haven't said it's a particular type of item. In this case, that it's a 4 or 6 inch slab. We're just simply saying this is an area, and we named it. Basic area takeoff. Very simple to do. It won't take you long to actually go from this to the more advanced features. All right, now that we have this area, if we click on Properties, we see that dialog box, which is the basic form, pop up. And here we could change the color, we could change the fill type, we could change the name. You'll always see these other choices here, Input and Advanced. Input is mostly useless in what we're doing in these tutorials. Advanced is you'll be going in, the more you learn about PlanSwift, the more you'll be in this advanced. Advanced basically is all the properties of this takeoff, not just what you're seeing in form, which is an abbreviated version. It gives you everything. So let's click on that just so you know what it looks like. And in later videos, we're actually going to talk about manipulating and changing things in the advanced dialog box, adding to it, modifying it. There's a whole session we'll do on stuff like that. And that's going to be in the advanced tutorials when we get out of PlanSwift Basics and we go into PlanSwift Advanced, because that's why it says advanced. If you don't want to be here, don't be here. But this is where you're going to be doing things like adding cost, adding markup, and doing other things to it to make this from a takeoff into a bid. So I'm not going to add cost at this point because everyone's cost is different. But I will show you something that I do quite often. I don't like seeing a decimal anything in square feet, square yards, whatever. So I'm going to go here, and this is the simplest thing to do. It says takeoff, and that basically is a property. When PlanSwift does anything, it puts it in a takeoff field, and a quantity as a default is that takeoff field. It doesn't round it up though. So if you want to round something up, just click in that box. It's going to be unprotected, meaning unlocked, and go up to the top here, and you'll see Insert Special, and you'll see little parenthesis bars around that. Click down on that and you'll see parentheses, double parentheses, round up and round down. I always click on round up, and watch what happens when I click outside of that box. It rounded it up. Now it's 41,968 square feet. I hit OK. Now it's still on the properties of the box. It's going to tell you 41,967.46 because that is the true measurement. But look over here on your properties in your pages navigation screen. It says it's 41,968. It took that rounding. If we go to the estimating tab, which we really haven't done a lot in our series yet, that's where you're actually building the takeoff and building your estimate. We'll see, I've got some other things in here obviously. We'll see slab demo 41,968. So it took the rounding there. If we had a cost at that point, we would see it in here, as well as a price total and some other things that are some other things that are default values in PlanSwift. There again, the estimating layout screen is a topic for another day. So let's go back to home. And home is where your takeoff is. That your home tab is where all your takeoffs are going to be if you're in a different screen. All right. What if in the middle of your square, that your area you took off, there was a item that does not need to be in the takeoff? Happens all the time. We're going to go ahead and draw something up in here. Just really simple. 50 by 20 by 50. This area, this 50 by 20 area, is not in your scope. So when we do take off an area around something, it's kind of difficult to get to the area that is not coming out. PlanSwift gives you an easy fix for this. After you've done the takeoff, click on that area so that is highlighted. Anytime you click on an area, the corners will get highlighted, the perimeter will get highlighted, and right click and go down to where you see subtract P2P, and that means point to point. There's also a subtract box and a single click subtract section. We're just going to talk about the subtract point to point right now because it's the most accurate. Click on that. You're going to get your mouse icons now going to ask you to click the next point. If something's already there, then you can click on an endpoint. If something isn't there, you're going to draw a line or follow the line just like you did with area. Now we have an endpoint there, so we can just click on that. And see what's happening here? It is subtracting. And then when we're done, hit escape or click off the digitizer. And now we have a subtract, and it tells you that your area now is 1,000 square feet less because you've got an area here that you've excluded from your main area. So taking or removing an area, a portion of area inside of something you've taken off is just that simple. So adding an area and then subtracting for it is really pretty straightforward. You just need to practice with it a little bit. All right. Let's go to a little more complex area. We're going to go to our demo plan here. And we're going to do a little bit more things that isn't a box. We've got angles, we've got curves, we've got half circles, and we've got some areas that we may need to exclude. So I'm going to go ahead and just do this and try to follow along, and then I'll tell you what I've done after I did it. So and good. All right, 13,256 square feet, give or take. I'm now going to subtract these other areas I don't want, just because, and you could have done either way. I could have gone around this. This ties into the building, so I could have gone around it. But just as easy, I'm going to subtract it. All right, now how we have our area. Now, you probably saw me that if I simply had an angle, I went and clicked at that angle, meaning a straight, and then it turns. If I had a curve or a arc, then I pressed the A key and I made my arc. I will tell you, after you do this, if the arc isn't perfect, go to the center of your arc, click on that point, and watch what you can do. You can move that arc around and make it better. If the center wasn't right, don't worry about it. Come back to it. You can move the arc later. and make it perfect. Same thing goes over here where I had a half circle. If I found that that wasn't right, I could pull it out. I could change it around. You can adjust your arcs after the fact. So at first time, I'd always try to be perfect with it and found out I don't need to. I can adjust it after the fact. There's even, in the advanced features, we'll talk about adding points to an arc or deleting points from an arc. We're not getting into that today. So there we go. We've got an area here that we've created that's got straight lines, it's got diagonal lines, it's got arcs, and we got to have a couple areas that we've removed. All right, now that we've gone over creating basic areas of manipulating color, texture, and actually removing areas or excluding areas inside of these area takeoffs, we're going to go to some of the options under the area toolbar or tool icon. Single click area. Now, single click area is a function that PlanSwift tries to do to fill in a box or an area that has defined lines. We're going to get into a separate video of that just because there's a lot of parameters to making it work properly. I'm not a big fan of the single click area, but it does work on certain drawings. So we're going to skip that for now. Roof area. Roof area is for framers and roofers that need to be able to calculate the proper square foot based on the pitch of the roof. And if you've got a home, you know your roof very likely has a pitch to it. Because we're working in two-dimensional plans, we need to know the proper pitch to get the proper square footage. So this tool is for roofers or anything that has a pitch or angle to it that would not be calculated correctly in a two-dimensional plan. So we're going to not get into that on this segment. Price per square foot. Now, if you want to simply have a simple tool for taking an area and pricing per square foot, this is a fine tool. Most of my templates that I make up have that built into it, so I rarely use this item. But for a quick and dirty price per square foot, but certainly it brings up the information you need to go. And it's very straightforward. Area cubic yards. Let's say you're a concrete material supplier and you're doing a takeoff for your customer. He says, I need to fill in, I've got a footing I've got to pour here, the one like you see on the screen, and I need you to tell me how many cubic yards. Let's talk about Grid Tool. I use Grid Tool a lot. In my role as in concrete demolition, I'm always figure cutting. What size squares or pieces am I going to have to cut this concrete into? So in my templates and assemblies, I've got a Grid Tool built into several of them, and I'll show you how it works. So you could change the name of Grid Tool if you want to, and I could say slab sawing, for example. Let's say I'm sawing this existing concrete so they can put in this new footer. Slab sawing, color, I'm going to pick none, and you're going to see why in a second. Angle, I'm going to leave blank. Vertical spacing, okay, I can get in this with a machine, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it into 4x4s. Well, the vertical spacing is based on inches, so I need to do a little math there. So that's 48 inches. Tab over, 48 inches. So selecting parallel side allows your grid to line up with whatever side you select. It's that simple. I'm just going to click on OK, and I need to trace my area I'm using. Hit Escape. Well, I've got a grid. So once you created this pattern, let's say you decide that that's not the right size. Oh, I'm going to go over here and have to delete it and start over. Don't. It's easy to change a grid pattern even after you've done it. I don't know if you noticed, but up in the upper left-hand corner, you see a draw grid and clear grid. So besides of clearing the grid, I can redraw the grid. Let's say that I want to change it to a different size. I double click on that original grid takeoff, and I'll go and I'll change it to 60 by 60 or 60 by 40, whenever you want to put in. And now I'll hit OK. And nothing's done yet until I say draw grid. And then it redraws it into a 60 by 60 pattern. And you can see if I re-dimension this, 5 by 5 pattern. So you do a pattern, you don't like it, change the parameters by double clicking, change your vertical and horizontal spacing, and then redraw your grid. Now, you might remember that when I picked a color, I said none, because that really is a color that would be for the whole area, the square foot of the area. I don't want to hide what I've already done, so that's why I said none. The color that PlanSwift picks when it draws the grid is random, unfortunately. I can't, you can go and change the color, like I'm doing now, any color you want to. But the reason I picked none when I was picking a color was for the area. That was the takeoff. I didn't need a color for that. I only needed a color for the grid. All right, last but not least, let's create joists. Now, I am not an expert at this tool because I frankly don't use it. If I need to select a grid pattern with just one direction, then I just zero out either vertical or horizontal and I get a grid in one direction. Joyce Tool is mainly made for framing contractors and roof contractors that have to figure either roof joists or some kind of joist pattern. And there's a lot of options with using this tool, and we're just going to show you briefly. I click on Joyce Tool. There again, you can name things, you can talk about joist types, you can set calculations, you can set parallel sides. The most important thing is probably your on-center spacing. So we're going to change the spacing, and we can set minimum lengths and new lengths, and we can select the colors and all that stuff, and we'll select a light color. And then there's options for grouping. So this video, we're just going to select the spacing, and we're going to go hit OK. It's going to ask us to create an area like we do with a lot of other things, like we do with the grid tool. And I can also use my keyboard for finishing it versus using the mouse. And I created, that is the joist area, not the joists themselves. When I click on that, you'll see options now up in the upper left-hand corner for drawing joists and rafters, clearing them, regenerating totals, and splitting joists and rafters. Now, I'm not the expert on joists and rafters, so I won't get into that in the screen. I'm just showing you the basics of this. Once I'm in the area, if I click on Draw Joist Rafters, it asks me to click the first and second points, which is the direction those joists or rafters are going to go in. So I'm going to click on this point, then I'm going to click on this point. You're basically selecting the parallel line. And now you can see, here are my joists. Those are the colors. If I turn off the color on the area to off, let's see here. If I turn the area color off, you can probably see them better. There we go. These are my joists, and they've numbered them, and they've told you how many, 16 joists at 54 feet long, and that's the Joyce tool. We're not going to go any more into the Joyce tool than that because I'm not the expert. That pretty much wraps it up for our area takeoff, doing basic areas and the options under area. Single click, roof, price per square foot, area cubic yards, grid tool, and joist tool. If you got any questions about using this, please leave comments for us, and we'll try to follow up either with answers or other videos, try to take this to the next level.